This wouldn't be a climate special unless somebody said, save the planet. But we really shouldn't be saving the planet. The planet's gonna be fine. We should be saving ourselves and life as we know it, or that we can live it comfortably. And that's why we wanted to talk about leadership, because we're gonna need it. And we spoke to the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, John Kerry. He is someone who will have big stakes and tells us about them in that big summit coming up in Glasgow.
The world will step up.
John Kerry, Vietnam War veteran, former presidential candidate, a U.S. senator for nearly 2 decades, then Secretary of State, and today he's President Biden's climate czar, taking on one of the biggest challenges of his career. President Biden used the words, people need to bring their highest ambitions to COP26.
To keep within our reach the vital goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, every nation needs to bring their highest possible ambitions to the table.
Ambition without action is fantasy. How do we go from fantasy and make sure that doesn't happen and get measured result from 2 weeks in Glasgow?
Glasgow's not the end of the road. It's the best opportunity we have. Why? Because this is the moment that the scientists told us we have now about 9 years within which to make the most important decisions that get us there. This is the test really of the foundation of the United Nations, of the whole notion of community on an international basis, of countries helping other countries. President Xi of China made a very important announcement that China is no longer going to fund any coal-fired power plants externally outside their country. That sends a terrific message.
Sure.
And President Xi is to be congratulated for stepping up now. I hope China will do more.
Well, that's what, when I saw that announcement, you know, not investing abroad and helping develop green energy in other countries that are developing is wonderful. But how does that weigh out with dozens of new coal-fired power plants within China?
Well, they're still looking at that. I know they're trying to examine what their peak level will be for emissions. They feel like they didn't have other alternatives, and they therefore grew the coal while they had to grow their economy. And my hope is that President Xi is going to help us all to come together around certain choices we can each make.
I think within the U.S., people feel more hope, but then their mind and words always go to China. And so they'll often ask me, and I say, I don't have a word with China, but you do, and you just came back again. Do you feel when you go there, there is good faith that things will actually happen? Because if you hear 2060, we're going to be carbon neutral by then, but then you see the investment in fossil fuel, it is very hard for me or anyone else to see that add up. Like, what are we missing?
I mean, it obviously, we all need to do faster. Every country has to go faster. None of us can say we're really fast enough. There are few countries, you can get them on 1 or 2 hands, that are in keeping with the Paris numbers. Most countries, we have a long way to go. But the 191 countries that have all put in their plans together, whether they've changed them, improved them, or kept them the same, that 191 result in a 16% increase in emissions. That is a big F. That fails. Fails for everybody. We're going to keep negotiating, working with countries in order to try to bring them on board. And as you know better than anybody, because you're a trained meteorologist, we are contributing to this.
Yes.
Human beings are responsible for
Yes.
this accelerated process of deterioration. And it will take us making basic choices to get us back on track. The good thing is we can do this.
I have a weekly segment. It's called It's Not Too Late, for that very reason, because I firmly believe it's not, and I know scientifically it's not.
You don't want people to wake up in the morning and say, I don't want to get out of bed, and they go home. And if you really sit and take in all of the potential negatives.
In the climate crisis.
In the climate crisis, some people just freeze and they say, I don't know what to do. That's bigger than me. I can't be individually responsible for that. Someone else is going to have to fix it, or some technology is going to roll along that's going to fix it. I hope so. But in the absence of that, you've got to apply the precautionary principle of living and of governing.
There are benchmarks, as you said, 9 years, 1.5. Why not be more aggressive then than 1.5? Because it's just not realistic?
You've got to be realistic where the science can let you go here. We're not doing this because Joe Biden has a philosophy. or because, although his philosophy helps him to do it, but it's not because of that. It's not ideology, it's not politics, it doesn't have a label, it's science.
Mm-hmm. It's being billed as the best last chance to curb greenhouse gas emissions. But then the UN Secretary General says, hey, if we don't all come together and urgently, collectively make this change, there's a high risk of failure. So to you, what's the best outcome and what's the worst?
Well, the best outcome is that the 20 largest economies of the world will come together recognizing that they are responsible for 80% of all the emissions. Mm-hmm. So there is a special responsibility on the developed world. And if the developed world will step up, I have no question but that the rest of the world will be able to follow and to make choices that they can't otherwise make today. So we have to help them do that.
There will have to be financial help for the developing country. That's the part that really hasn't been followed through from Paris, is the money hasn't showed up.
President Biden took a huge step towards that by committing to double the amount that already had been doubled in order to show good faith to help leverage the production of the 100 billion from the whole world that needs to be made available to countries to make this happen.
Going back to those UN numbers with the 2.7 degrees expected by the end of the century, I think Greta Thunberg says this is what betrayal looks like. Whatever our so-called leaders are doing, they're doing it wrong. And it made us think about that. It is a beautiful image of you signing the Paris Agreement with your granddaughter Isabel on your lap, and that's just 5 years ago or so. Do you think that as a globe, the leaders have failed Isabel and her generation?
A lot of them have failed, but I think it's unfair. I think it's a little much of a reach to say that so-called leaders, there are a lot of real leaders around. And they are trying very, very hard to move this process. And I understand Greta's frustration and anger, which is, I feel the anger, same anger. Mm-hmm. People are getting in the way, some people. And what we need to do is behave like adults and get the job done. And she's absolutely right to be pressing the urgency of our doing that. But there are leaders out there trying to get some things done, just too slowly in some cases, and we've got to speed it up.
I'm looking forward to COP. I hope I get to be there for part of it.
Well, I hope you're there, and we look forward to seeing you.
You as well. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.